Hey guys, what's cracking? Godsman here, coming at you with another set of V Clan Collection reveals, and this time we're actually going to be going over a few things today. A few different clans got their support. Not all of them got all their support. As a matter of fact, we continue to see a trend of a lot of clans getting one singular card and not the entire set of three, which is quite an interesting approach from Bushy, but let's look into those cards a little bit further, right? So, starting off, we've got a Nova Grappler unit, just one, and surprise, surprise, it's War Deity Ashura Kaiser. So yeah, to my recollection, I believe this was like an Ashura Kaiser stride, although I could be wrong. Someone comment. But yeah, this is certainly a surprise. We didn't really know what we were going to get exactly for Novas. It was really quite wide open, but Ashura Kaiser support, I mean, heck, you know, fair play, I guess. No, there's a lot Novas could have gotten. So, it's got three effects, so it's a monster. First one is an act in the hand. If your Vanguard is Ashura Kaiser, you counterblast when right in its stand. That's basically like Raven-haired Ezel, but for Ashura Kaiser. Second skill, act once per turn. If you have Ashura Kaiser of the Soul, OG Wonder, you Soul Blast one, look at the top three cards of the deck, and then you stack one on top. The other two are discarded. Final skill. Auto once per turn. At the end of the battle that you drive checked a grade 2 or greater card, choose one of your rear guards and stand it. But if the opponent's van is grade 3 or greater, you CB1 and stand all of your rear guards instead. Okay, so this is a monster in all honesty, because of course, let's just look at all the great things about War Deity, right? First off, you're able to accelerate your excels, because just like Raven-haired Ezel, you can get a second excel on your first grade 3 turn, and it's just by writing Ashura Kaiser. That's awesome. If you've got Ashura Kaiser in the Soul, you're able to look at the top three and stack one, which is great because, of course, you have this parameter for the third effect. The fact that it says grade 2 or greater card is pretty cool, because even if you don't stack, your chances are still decent, but more times than not, you want to be stacking. So yeah, this is a cool like thing to achieve. It's more feasible than Ashura Kaiser itself, which was just specifically grade 3. Now, PP top 3, you know, that isn't necessarily carte blanche. You could just, in theory, have hit, like, I don't know, like some triggers or whatnot, but keep in mind, on the subject of triggers, that your grade 3 heal guards, they do count for this. It doesn't say normal unit. So, yeah, and the fact that you can stand all of your rear guards, all of them, yeah, all of them, that means even the back row boosters, that's nuts. That's wild. Why? That's a lot of restand. And you can combo with this too, because there are cards that are able to do effects when they restand. For instance, there is a promo that recently came out for Victor, which whenever a rear restands, both it and that rear are going to give 5k. So by restanding all of your rears, let's just say that this was your first grade 3 turn and you fulfilled all of Ashura Kaiser's effects here, right? You're able to restand a max of 7 units. So this thing's on the Excel marker, and this thing is going to be seeing that something on the Excel marker is like restanding, and yeah, it's going to get multiple power buffs. That's a lot. You got big rears, and then of course there's other things that are able to combo with being able to restand. I believe there's a card, in fact, things like the elephant or something, but there was a card that when it restood, it was able to get like a bunch of power to come with it. So yeah, this is another way to get more power with that. Yeah, just all around Ashura Kaiser, right? It's just good stuff Novas, you know, like this is a solid boss unit. It feels really up to snuff with what V is at right now. Like all three of these effects are great. None of them are like to waste. And I even saw like a mention about how you can combine this with Grip Angle to retroactively, after using the second effect, use Grip Angle to stack a front on top. So then your twin drive is going to be a front, and then whatever grade 2 or greater you stacked. So yeah, that's pretty delicious. Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's a little bit greedy because you're technically negging 1 for it, but I mean, who cares? You got the extra excel anyway, you know, you're fine. You're Nova Grapplers, you're supposed to be aggressive anyway. Don't care too much about card advantage. Yeah, War Deity, Trey Magnifique, one of the better cards this set. I don't have any hesitation in saying that. So well made, so well done. Alright, now let's move on to the next one. And we're back. So, one card for Granblue. Yes, the one card trend continues. And yeah, surprise, surprise. As opposed to all the other one cards so far, this isn't some grade 3 boss unit. No, but it is a classic unit indeed. So we've got King Serpent coming back to V. And so King Serpent is a grade 2 with these effects. When it's placed in RC due to a card ability, Soul Charge 1 and it gets 10k until end of turn. Pretty cool. And when it's retired from the rear circle by your card's ability, if you have no face-up cards in the damage zone, you countercharge 1. So yeah, anyone who knows what old King Serpent does, this is sort of like very reminiscent of that. You know, it has the countercharge and the soul charge to it. But admittedly, King Serpent is a little bit of a mixed bag for me. On one hand, yes, it's cool to have a resource card for Granblue, and I think the soul charge in particular is very nice for Granblue. But also at the other hand, it's like, yeah, okay, putting in a slot for this, it's a little bit debatable. Like, as far as resource cards go, you may not need this to keep your Granblue plays going because it's not really progressing your game state much. Like, sure, okay, it gets 10k when it's placed by card effect, but it still doesn't feel that great. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a great card for like the soul charge especially, but will you put it in over other cards? Because keep in mind, I've said this before, but Granblue is one of those clans that is just stacked with good units. You know, Skull Dragon, Beatrice, Sea Skeleton, Columbard, Greed Shade. They've got so many strong staple cards, not to mention that depending on your variant, you're using a lot of other strong like cards that are more catered towards that variant, such as Pinot Blanc for Pinot Noir. That's one. You've got the other Legion with Negrable. You know, they need their stuff going. Yeah, so on and so forth. This may not find that much room, but it could be like a 1 or a 2 of. There could be flex spots. I think in Night Rose could use this because, of course, it's easy to retire by card ability. If you're trying to like push hard, but you think you're not going to be able to kill anyway, this is not bad. You know, this is not a bad idea. So I think King Serpent does what it's supposed to, and regardless of whether or not it will or will not see play, I think this is pretty solid card design. It has a very clear purpose, which is to give you back resource, and it does it very fair. All right, now moving on to the next one. And we're back. So, next up is Dark Irregular, and surprise, surprise, you know, of course we knew we were getting Ammon Reverse, but turns out we're getting a grade 2 and a grade 1 with him. So, finally, he returned to form in the classic 3-card fashion. What do they do, though? Well, it's kind of a mixed bag. Let me just give that quick little spoiler. So let's start with going down the line. Let's do Ammon's follower, Atrocious Blow. So Atrocious Blow is a grade 1 Dark Irregular, and it has 2 effects. First one is when it's placed on the Van circle, you peep top 7 cards of your deck. You choose up to 1 grade 3 card with Ammon the name, reveal and add to the hand and shuffle your deck. So, you know, that's cool. Very much like up to snuff with what a lot of these like Peep 7 cards are. You know, they're only on Van Circle, they're grade 1s. You tend to have about approximately, at least in V anyway, you tend to have about 2 targets for them. Case in point, the Scout of Darkness Mortimer can only search 2 specific cards. Nikki has 2 specific cards. Atrocious Blow being able to add 2 different grade 3s essentially, because there's only 2 grade 3 Ammons now in V. You know, it's up to snuff, it's pretty cool. Second effect, though, is what really gets Atrocious Blow going. So, act on rear, cost, rest this unit. Simple cost, right? Soul Charge 1, choose one of your cards with Ammon in its name, any of your units, right? Can be Van or rear. And until end of turn, that unit gets 1k for each card in your soul. Holy crap. So, yes, this is indeed OG Yellow Bolts in V with the V stats. Not to mention the fact that now on top of that, it gives a power boost to any of your Ammons, and the power boost it gives is essentially giving it like the old like OG Ammon effect, which is sweet, you know? I mean, give this to a Ronjean lean and it's gonna hit pretty hard. Give this to your rear guard Ammon and it's gonna hit pretty hard. Giving it even to your Vanguard, I mean, that's pretty cool. This actually does combo with the reverse, funnily enough, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, Atrocious Blow, let's just look at this objectively. Things like Fujin Lean is like a 1-for-1 in soul advantage, could be potential too. This also just gives you a 1 in soul advantage, but it's just by resting it, which is really, really simple. And you would be like, oh yeah, but you don't get the boost. But because of like the 1k for each card in the soul, if you put this behind Ammon unit, like again, say Ronjean Lean, you're effectively giving it a power boost anyway, and starting from like grade 3 onward especially, this boost is going to be bigger than the 8k it would have normally given. So yeah, Atrocious Blow, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So next up we've got Ammon's follower, Soul Sucker. So Soul Sucker, I got no comments for this. All right, so when this unit is rode upon by an Ammon, so obviously a grade 3 Ammon, so this is a grade 2. You soul charge 3. No cost, just soul charge 3. Neat. Second effect, auto and rear. When this unit attacks, you counterblast 1 to soul charge 1, and it gets 5k until the end of that battle. At the end of said battle, if your Vanguard is an Ammon and you have 6 or more cards in your soul, you're able to suck it into soul to draw a card. Yeah, it's a pretty alright unit, you know, like as a ride target, it's really nice. So very much like Atrocious Blow, we got good solid ride targets for Ammon, which is kind of interesting to give it retroactively after the first wave support, which don't get me wrong, they had ban effects as well, the Ranji Lean and Fuji Lean, but these are like more van restrictive and they seem like straight up better van effects for the most part. So yeah, this is pretty wild. It's funny that we're just getting on the second go around. Anyway, actually then again, the Revengers were the same way too with Rakia and Rukia. You know, the second round of Planet Collection Revengers had like better ride effects. So whatever. With the second effect, it is pretty average, right? Yeah, you're CBing 1 for a potential 1-for-1, and yeah, you do get power and a soul charge. It's like, I guess you can do it, but let's be real, there is Demonted Executioner anyway, so Demonted feels better because you get a soul charge 3 with a potential plus. Of course, it's not getting the power, so, but it is a plus card is the thing. So you might run this in conjunction with Demonted and have Soul Sucker be your potential ride. And I guess a van, if you, as a van it's good, but as a rear, like if you gotta do it, you gotta do it. But you might just have it as suck up fodder otherwise. That's perfectly valid considering, you know, again, Ammon is a gas guzzler and needs fodder. So yeah, all around Soul Sucker, you know, he's pretty fine. What may not be fine though is Demon World Marquee Ammon Reverse. So kind of a shame because look at this artwork. Yes, amazing artwork, absolutely godly. But in terms of effect, this is what he does. So act on Van once per turn, you lock 2 rears, and until end of turn, he gets 2k for each card in your soul. Then if his power threshold has exceeded 40k or hit 40k, he gets 1 crit. Second skill, act once per turn. You counterblast 1, choose up to 2 cards with Ammon on your soul, call into rear circle, and then at the end of the turn, they suck up Active soul. So, my impressions on Ammon Reverse. Well, let me just say straight out that it's not objectively bad. It just feels like a very odd evolution of what we got for base Ammon. Because here's the thing, yeah, it powers up and it might get a crit if it's really, really big, but of course you're locking 2 rear guards to do it. That just seems kind of weird because now it's just big beater, you know? That's just your big reward, you know? Big beater. That's it. That's all it does. I mean, come on. Regular Ammon was also big beater. Of course, Ammon Reverse is bigger. Usually, like, he's probably going to get bigger for the most part, but, I mean, I don't care. Like, honestly, I don't care. Ammon Reverse can just get PG'd and that's it. He doesn't have much more other pressure. Sure, he does call 2 Ammons, but then they suck up at end of turn. Now to remind you, because these are both acts and you can choose which order to do them, you can do some shenanigans with it. For one thing, I mentioned before that Atrocious Blow, you're able to combo with it a little bit because with Atrocious Blow, after you're done like resting it, you can just lock it, which is cool, you know, that's pretty sweet. But on top of that, because it's giving 1k to Ammon Reverse, it makes getting the 40k or greater threshold easier because now you don't need that many cards in soul to do it. So I see the point there. Another interesting thing you can do with Ammon Reverse is that you can use the second effect first. And the reason why you would do that is if you choose 2 Ammons, like let's say it's just like Fujin Leans or whatever, hell, even like Atrocious Blows, you can call them out and then lock those same rear guards. So because then due to the rulings of locking, at the end of the turn, when they unlock, they're considered different units. So they don't have to suck back up into soul. So you do CB1 for a +2. That's cool. And it does make this an interesting like first ride target because between the 2 things I've mentioned, that means that it's easy to be a big beater with not a lot of soul and then just like get some advantage. But what was exactly wrong with having regular Ammon as your first ride? Absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, as a first ride, especially if you're going first, Ammon like was really good, you know? Just get rid of a lot of your opponent's like stuff and potentially get a drive for it, on top of course having like crits and power just like Reverse does. There's nothing wrong with Ammon. Ammon was great. So this isn't a finisher, and as a starter, as a starting like grade 3 Vanguard, it is competing with Ammon, and it's a competition that it might lose in a lot of cases. So it's niche. It's not bad because, like I said, you can do stuff with this, but it just feels misplaced considering the direction that Ammon was going. This is not what Ammon needed as a evolution to the base form. And yeah, I think a lot of people argue that this is worse than base Ammon, and I would probably agree. I think base Ammon was just like is stronger than this, but you know, this just does things a little bit differently. So yeah, kind of disappointing, but at the same time, you know, it's not the worst thing. You can make this work, but will you want to make this work? Probably not, because keep in mind, Steal is still a thing. Hope on Tap is still a thing. We can also use things like Number of Terror. A lot of grade 3s here that just feel like they just work better with Ammon. Hell, Shahado for V series works better with Ammon than Ammon Reverse in terms of the tempo and the end game of the deck. This doesn't really contribute. So yeah, Ammon Reverse, very, very iffy. Not a very hot grade 3, not gonna lie. But hey, you know what? We can at least end things on a better note because there's still one more reveal to go. All right, and now we're on to the final reveal of the night, and hey, look who's back. Steve! Yeah, so we've got Eradicator, Sweep Command Dragon. Now, I guess just as a quick story time, because it seems like a fair bit of people didn't know about this, but when Sweep Command Dragon was first revealed, right, in the OG for English translation, when they were translating Sweep Command Dragon, there was a mistranslation where Sweep, the kanji for sweep, was written as Sieve, as in S-I-E-V-E. So people just started calling it Steve. So just imagine Steve Command Dragon, right? Kind of a silly name. So the name just stuck for a lot of people, even though that, of course, was wrong and it was Sweep Command. Anyway, so that aside, let's go over what Sweep Command does. And what he does is pretty cool. So when it's placed on Van or Rear auto, Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's front row, bind it, and then you can choose a back row and move it up. So yeah, cool first effect. Second effect, auto on Van once per turn. When your opponent's rear guard is bound during your turn, namely perhaps when you wrote it, because remember, this one is a Van only effect. The first one can be Van or Rear, so they synergize anyway. When your opponent's rear guard is bound during your turn, choose one of your opponent's front or rear guards, bind it. If there are 4 more cards in your damage zone, so Limit Break, you can Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1 in order to get an Excel and then choose an Eradicator from the drop and call it to RC. Yeah, so Sweep is kind of an interesting Eradicator. So let's just go over it. First off, this thing is sort of a front row clear, essentially, a la how Gauntlet Buster was doing it. I mean, he's just sniping rear guards very much the same way that Gauntlet does it. However, he doesn't get any crits. Instead, he's giving you a potential to get an Excel, and you get an Eradicator on top of that. So not only are you generating an extra Excel, but you're sort of +2 off of it. That's pretty good. That is pretty good, especially since you are negging a couple of your opponent's front row. And on top of that, the fact that it moves a back row up means that it works just in time for it to, let's say your opponent had 1 front row and like 1 back row. You can bind the front row with the first effect and then move up the back row, and then with the second effect, it sees the front row bind and then binds the other front row. And then there you go. That's really cool. But anyway, this is a good way to, of course, get resources, but I do have a little bit of a bone to pick with how it all comes out. Don't get me wrong, I love Steve, and I think this is actually really strong, like on paper, like this is a really strong design, and it has a lot of potential, especially in V, this has potential. But the one thing that I'm taking issue with is, for a Limit Break card, you're just sort of getting resources, right? So it feels more like an attrition game when Limit Breaks, especially in a fast-paced meta like V, should be more based on finishing the game. You know, like how Spectral Duke has the extra like drive pressure when it does its restand, or Raging Form can get 3 attacks when it has its Limit Break online. Yeah, this feels just more like, oh, okay, let's prolong the game another turn, you know, set up. I mean, sure, okay, yes, you're getting another attacker technically, but then there's no end game, right? Gauntlet Buster had like a bunch of crits. Vowing Sword can give you a bunch of power, but this doesn't really have much of an end game. Sure, you can play things like Thunderous Beat for the rear guard, but still, it doesn't seem like it closes out well enough. So that could be an issue for Sweep Command. And yet, I still think that this plus Descendant could be pretty cool, right? You know, it still has the same, it still does what an Eradicator should do, but it takes it in a different direction by having the Excel marker generation. So yeah. You know, he kind of belongs in V. We'll see if this can topple like the Gauntlet Descendant variant, because I don't really think so. It's more like on the level of Vowing Sword in terms of V. But in Premium, this is different, right? Because in Premium, I still think Vowing Sword is the move, because Vowing Sword combos with Stun Burst in such a ridiculous way that Sweep Command doesn't. Sweep Command doesn't really quite do well with Stun Burst, unfortunately. So, yeah. That kind of sucks. Sure, okay, like it can still work in Premium, and as a matter of fact, let me just say that one upside to Sweep Command is it's actually really cool, the new Narukami Stride, Exterminate Dragon, because Exterminate Dragon, to get the most out of its effect, your opponent should have no front row rear guards, right? So if your opponent does have like a front row rear guard or two, Sweep Command is able to just wipe them away prior to you having to stride. So that's a fantastic way to be able to allow Sweep Command to get its full effects and like get them to the utmost that it could. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely got a place. It's of a good power level, and I think there's potential here. So yeah, welcome back, Steve. We always missed you, and now we won't have to miss you anymore. Okay. With that, that's going to be it for today. Pretty good reveals overall. Sure, I'm a little bit iffy on the Ammon Reverse, which is kind of sad considering our boy Gear Shift does play that deck a lot. But yeah, that aside, who knows, even that can have like a redeeming quality, and we'll have to see. But everything else seemed pretty cool. The trend of one card for a lot of these clans is getting a little bit tiresome, to be honest. I don't know if I like that very much. It seems like it was better when we were just getting 3 at a time. It felt more stratified, more predictable, especially when we were getting hints and artwork reveals. Now it's just like, whatever we get is whatever we get. It doesn't feel as nice, but you know what? I mean, who can complain, right? Because hey, at least we're still having Clan Collection. And you know, there is somewhat of a surprise factor. I mean, heck, I never expected Steve to get revealed today. Did you? I sincerely doubt it. So hey, there is that benefit. And with that, take care. God bless.